Hey, welcome to another episode of Nobody Told Me. And I'm Mike Miley with Blaine Birch. And today we're going to talk about nobody told me where to get that first sale. Where does that come from? So it's a big problem. We all have it. Blaine, have you had that problem before?
Oh yeah, everyone has that problem, but it's also one of the most fun things when you land your first sale. So it's an exciting thing and it's so necessary, but it can be kind of tricky. Before we get started, what are you drinking this week?
All right. So I normally never do this, right? Because I've been on this Texas thing, but I'm like going, if I walk in and I giggle when I see the can, I got to buy it, right?
You got to get it.
And it doesn't matter what the flavor is. It doesn't matter what it looks like. If I giggle at the can, you got to buy it. So what I saw was this. It's by Belching Beaver
Belching
Brewery.
Beaver. Yeah,
You've heard of it?
I've had a bunch of theirs. I've had that peanut butter milk stout.
Oh,
it's a good beer.
Me.
I've had a ton of it. Yeah.
I have no idea. I've never had a peanut butter milk stout, but it was that picture and that name that says, "Oh yeah, I got to try that." So why wouldn't I?
It's probably how I got it the first time too, and it's a really good beer. I can't remember where's the brewery from again. I can't remember.
Oceanside, California.
Oceanside, California. Okay.
Yeah, Oceanside, California. But
nice.
It was so interesting. I'm like, okay, I'm going that way this week. So if you're a beer lover, you got to try it. So
it's a good call, and it's a good beer. I've had that. It's a nice beer. So that's not a bad pick at all. It's you might think that it's got a weird name. That's a pretty nice beer.
It's exactly what you would expect. It's like a
stout.
chocolatey. It's like a chocolatey peanut butter stout. Yeah, it's exactly what you expect. Yeah,
awesome.
Very good, very good.
Oh, it's a good pick. It's a good pick. So this week I'm back to Alberta. I went US last week, but I've got. Where's my camera? Man, it seems kind of bright. I don't know if you can see it. It is.
It kind of blends in.
Yeah, I wonder if I can.
Oh, that's a little better.
There we go. Snake Lake, and it's Sylvan Lake Summer Double IPA. And so Snake Lake Brewery is in Sylvan Lake, Alberta. And Sylvan Lake Summer it's kind of fun. Like as soon as I saw it, I'm like, yeah, I got to get it because Sylvan Lake is just south of us, maybe about an hour. And I haven't been there in a long time, but it's one of the few places where you have a lake and like a real beach community and a cool little community with restaurants and stuff. And got some cabins around the lake and that. But it's got a legit beach, which is pretty rare in Alberta. And so I remember back in my university days, we would get the boys in the car and head down to the beach and play frisbee and whatever. And just it was a really fun time. So it brought back that summer beach feel. And it's a really good New England style double IPA. It's a delicious beer as well. And I've had a little bit of Snake Lake lately. They've had some really, really good beers. So I'm actually thinking now that I may have to actually drive down sometime. We'll have to head down and actually go to the brewery and have a few beers there because it's a cool community as well. So,
what's funny is that can is light, it's fresh, it's got, the logo is bright and vibrant. And then you said double IPA. It's like it doesn't mix to me.
It doesn't feel like a double IPA, but the colors feel like
like lager,
how it felt in almost like that 1990s hanging out on the beach. It kind of feels like those colors. And so it's but it is it's not like the most exciting can, but it's a good beer.
Well, so I'm just saying, I think double IPA, I'm thinking heavy. I'm thinking, it's got a real bite to it. And then you show me that can and I'm like, oh, it's a happy can.
It's a happy can. and it's got a very very grapefruity, sort of flavor.
Yeah. So I want to thank you for your little bit of, Mac knowledge. For those of you who don't know, I switched to Mac over the weekend. So it's like I'm speaking a new language, right? so if I'm a little clunky, if I'm a little slow, Blaine is part of my Rosetta Stone for Mac, trying to catch up to speed on what's happening.
I congratulated Mike on switching to Mac, and we always have this running commentary because out of our team, there's a small percentage that are on Mac, me included, and so there's always lots of barbs going back and forth, but. I don't think I've been anything on a Mac since other than a Mac since probably 95 94, 95, something like that. Like, so it's, I'm a lifer. So I know it pretty well.
All right. So here's the thing. I don't think you can mix. I don't think you can mix. So I went all in, right? So got the phone, got the Mac desktop, got the Mac Pro, and I went iPad Mini as well, right?
I got an iPad. Yeah,
I mean,
I've even got the watch. So,
oh, look, I got the watch too.
There you go.
Look,
the watch.
I'm just surrounded by Apple, right?
Yeah, it's just once you're gonna get your claws into you, you're just stuck, right?
Well, and so that's important. So think about that. I mean, nobody's has ever waited in line for anything I produced.
Yeah.
Nobody. No matter what I've built, I don't care. I mean, any of the 6 software products, the services that I had, nobody is lining up. Okay, I take that back. Every St. Patrick's Day, I would open up instead of 11 o'clock at the bar, I would open up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and there'd be a line of 10 to 40 people there for St. Patrick's Day. So there has been people lined up at my door.
Once, one day a year.
Yeah, one day a year. Yeah. So, but think about that. I mean, they have people waiting, lined up, camping outside to buy their stuff. And what we're talking about today is, how do I get you to buy that first one?
Yeah. And it'd be curious to see, like, how did they get their first one? Because they were in a garage at one point, hacking a box together. I probably read it in a book, but everybody has to get their first sale, including Apple, right? And it's tricky.
And I think Steve Jobs was just a salesman, right? I mean, when it comes right down to it, he was pounding the pavement. What's his name? Wozniacki, or I forget how to pronounce his last name. His partner, right? Did all the work.
Wozniak, yeah.
Yeah, Wozniak. Yeah. There it is, Steve Wozniak. He's probably cranking it out, but I think it was Jobs out there just door to door, like, computers were going to be a thing, but IBM was already there. He just got a couple of guys to invest in it, and it went. But think about that. What did he do? He pounded the pavement. He talked to as many people as he can. He went to local computer stores. It was just as many people as he could until it worked, right? Until he got somebody to say yes. So, I mean, who knows how many no's he went through before that?
Yeah, exactly. So how did you get your first customer for your first business? It was the staffing business, wasn't it? Like the cleaning business, right?
It was the cleaning business. So that one was interesting because it was a small office, and I just kind of stumbled. I was talking to a friend. All right. So that's kind of how maybe it happens a lot of times, is I was talking to a friend, and they go, man, we just cannot keep a cleaning crew in here, and we just can't keep up with it. And that was kind of the brain going, I'm wanting to change. I need to make some more money. Maybe I can clean, right? At 29 years old, I'm like, oh, that sounds like something I could do. I'd been in the Army. I'd went to a military academy. I'm like, I can dust and vacuum and clean a toilet and, empty trash. It was just an office building. Yeah. So I'm like, what if I just come in and do it? Right. So that's kind of how it gets started. I'm like, so you start there, but then I got that first one. So it's kind of a cheater way to get in. It's not like I built a product, which I have done. You build, a couple of software products, and you want to introduce them to the market. Nobody knows what the product is. Nobody's heard of it. Yeah. So I've done it both ways. But the easiest way is to walk in the door of your business already with a sale or a contract at hand and figure out about the contract. How about you?
Well, my first business was that turned into a creative agency. I'd call it that, but it wasn't that when I started. When I started, it was a Mac laptop. So that's how far back I got. A Mac laptop, big board and steel to get some software together that I could put together. And it was funny because back at the time I had some friends that they had sort of just graduated, and they went out and I think they probably got loans. I don't know if it's from the bank or from family, friends, whatever, bought just the whole thing, the big towers and multi-monitor, whatever they had, like all the software and everything. And then they were not around 6 months down the road. They were going out and getting a job because they didn't get any customers. And I went the opposite way. I was a little bit scared, I think. And I went, I need customers. So I got the bare minimum to deliver. And what I looked at, the reason I got a laptop, which I know people like actually in the industry made fun of me. What did you buy a laptop for? You're trying to do graphics now, because I want to be able to show up in a meeting and look like I'm the shit, right? Like I got my stuff together. Here's what, and I can show them stuff and it looks really legit. And then they don't know that I go home and I'm using the same bloody laptop to make stuff, right? And my first like I think I had little jobs while on the side when I was working at a studio. But when I started my business and realized, no, I need more money. I need to make money, and the first job that I remember getting was a friend of my dad's. And so it's, you're like, well, who do you know? Who do you know? Who do you know? And my dad's like, hey, go talk with these guys. They own a furniture company and they might need something. And went and talked to them and got a brochure contract and probably overdid the design on it. It was quite nice. Like it was really folded out, did all stuff. And, but it was that first job that now I could go to other places and I go, look at what I did for these guys. It looks beautiful. And
exactly right.
You build on that. And it was all networking. There was no advertising. It wasn't spending money on advertising. Who do you know? Who can I talk to? Who do you know? Who can I talk to? Network. Relationship building. It sounds a little trite or whatever, but no, that's how you do it. You talk with people.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, it's exactly the same. All of them. I don't care if it was the bars. I don't care if it was the hotel staffing company. I went to associations, to chamber meetings. I mean, I didn't have customers, so I had time to go do that.
Yeah, exactly. Got to do something.
So, that's right. But I mean, it's out of sheer desperation. But here's the hardest thing. What do you say once you're in front of me? Right. So, I mean, it's like going, what is that value proposition? What is that thing I tell you where you say, tell me more? And so I started using a formula, right? And the formula was, and anybody could use this, right? It's I help, and then fill in the blank, right? I help furniture, dealers. I help, gas stations. I help hotels, right? Whoever it is your customer, your ideal customer is, with this problem. Hey, who's trying to do this? In my case, we'll just go with the hotel staffing company. Hey, I help, full service, high end hotels and resorts who have problems filling staffing positions but still need work done, right?
Yeah.
Maybe short on staff, stuff like that. By doing this, and the buy is what you do. So I help this customer with this problem by doing this. And so that was my routine, and I've carried that through every single business. So I help hotels who have staffing problems by giving them the people when they need them for only the duration they need them for. Boom.
Yeah.
You come up with that sentence. And it's so easy to talk to people. But I think the goal when you're having that is you want them to go, no shit, tell me more.
Yeah.
How do you do that? Right. So the way you say that question or say that statement is supposed to encourage folks to engage with you, right?
Yeah. It's amazing because like what we're doing now with my team, it's down to almost a science on value prop and benefits and like all that kind of stuff. I'm pretty sure for my first few, at least the first couple of years in business till I started to get refined, I don't even think I had that down. I think I walked in and it was kind of like I have my portfolio because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And look what I can do was almost not in those words, but that was almost it. Look what I can do. And then look at it and go, yeah, it looks pretty good. Like this guy's not a moron. At least he can make stuff. And like that was, thinking back, if I had some of the tools that I have now with the value prop and everything, and I'm like, I'm going to help you grow your business doing this, probably everything would have grown faster and worked better. And I just didn't know anything. I just knew how to design stuff. And that was the only thing I do is look at this. That's what I can do. And of course, as we grew that business, it evolved in our sales process, everything evolved. But I should have had that sentence right out of the gate because I probably would have done a lot better, a lot quicker.
Well, and it's I started consulting, right? Kind of in between the staffing company and getting into software, I started consulting, and I stumbled across another just two-step thing, which was the value proposition. And people probably listening go, what the hell is that? People always say, what's the value proposition? Here's what it is. It's your promise to the customer. I do these things, right?
Yeah.
I promise I'm gonna give you the best blah, you know. But then if you couple that, right, and this is what you market. If you take your value prop, which is your promise to the customer, and then add to it why they should buy it from you or your competitive advantage. Hey,
Yeah.
I've got the best, I've got the best beer on the planet, and not only that, it's the cheapest. Oh, okay, I'll try that. So that's your promise to the customer and why they should buy it from you. That's all you really need to know. You tell everybody that story.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is a story. That's the thing is it's the more like building relationships and telling a story is how you get this done. Like people want to hear stories. They want to know, where you come from, how you're going to help them, how you're going to help them, and paint the picture of how you're going to help their business. Not, here's my quote. Yeah. Here's a piece of paper with a price on it. Well, yeah, okay, that's not gonna, get anyone's imagination going, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you say it's a story, but you probably heard this a million times. People buy people, not products, right? Because I can get a beer anywhere, but if you tell me this is a great beer, I'm more likely to go get that beer, right, instead of any other beer.
Exactly. I was just into right before this because I wanted to go buy the Snake Lake beer for today, and I was buying my father-in-law a bottle of scotch for his birthday because we were going over on the weekend for his birthday, and so I walked in and what do I do? I'm looking, okay, what have you got here? And so I was talking with the lady in the store and I said, tell me what you got. This is the kind of scotch that I think he likes. What have you got? And right away, she's like, these guys, very small distillery, they came into our store and we got to try all these different ones. And she goes, I just was too embarrassed to say, I'm not sure I really like this peaty one. And then he gave me one that was not so peaty. And she goes, this is my favorite one. Like, I love this scotch. And then she was going to go and show me some more because I got a wall that's 30 feet long. And I'm like, yeah, I'll take that one. That sounds all right, so, great.
All right. So I'm convinced my Scotch buds aren't in yet because the peat, the oak, the moss, I'm like, you know how as you age, you can eat or drink, more pungent things. Like I didn't used to like horseradish, but now I'm like going, here's a peanut butter sandwich. Let's put some more sandwich.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I try, right? I'm like going, maybe next year, because it's still, I'll drink it, I'll choke it down, but the more peaty it is, that earthy taste.
Yeah.
I'm just not there yet. I'm just not there yet.
I can do relatively peaty or a little bit less. I don't mind it, but the ultra peaty ones, I'm like, that's a little much. And I know my father-in-law's dad, like my wife's grandpa, he loved the really peaty. And I know the first time I ever had a really peaty scotch was at, I don't know, someone's wedding when I was still dating my wife at the time. And my wife and he brought out a little flask. It's kind of like in the reception, and he hands it to me and I drink something like, what was he out smoking out back? Like, why did it taste like that? It just was like, what the heck is this? And that's when I learned that's what peat and scotch is. And he likes the stuff that is about as peaty as you can get. Yeah. And so that was my introduction to scotch. And now it's not top of my list or anything, but I don't mind it occasionally. But I know my father-in-law really likes it. So I had to find the right one.
Okay. So James over at Finnegraph and I are good friends. And we had a weight loss competition one year, right? Who can lose the most weight before a certain event, right? It's like 45 days from now. And I beat him by like 3 pounds. So, however, what you won was a bottle of whiskey or bourbon or scotch that had to be worth $100 or more.
Yeah.
Right. So if you lost, you bought the other person a bottle of $100 or more.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to keep it in the office, that way the other person could share it. Well, he knew I didn't like super peaty, oaky, earthy scotches. So he got one called, I forget what it's called, but it's called like Pete's Revenge or something. If that gives you an indication what it tastes like, because he knew I wouldn't drink that much of it, and he could come into my office and get some.
Get some,
and he mostly got it.
Yeah, well, it's definitely an acquired taste. It's a tricky one, but it's funny going back, like thinking about, there has been, just thinking back even through my business, because we're talking about sales, and there have been times where I've got, and I think even in our last business, every once in a while, we would get like a Scotch kicker. So,
yeah,
it's almost like a tip. You do the job, and someone will walk in, and one of your clients is like, here's a bottle of Scotch. And like, I had forgot about that when you got a little agency like that sometimes, or at least back in the day, it wasn't always just like, send out your invoice, get your cash. It's like, yeah, client shows up, bottle of Scotch or a nice bottle of wine or something as well. Just a little bit different world, right?
Yeah, I mean, same way with the hotel staffing, same way with the bars. Now,
Yeah.
it happened a couple times though in software. Strange enough, a client would just like I got a bottle of Four Roses whiskey from a client one time. I'm like,
Nice.
I couldn't believe it. It just kind of showed up in the mail, so it was really nice to get. So when we're talking about those sales, I mean, because think about the people that are out there. Maybe they don't know where the first one comes from. Maybe they don't know what to do next or first. But I like something you said. You said, listen, I had this laptop. I could do a few things on it. I'm going to get started and then maybe get into bigger projects. Maybe that's the way to go, is that you say, I can do these two things or one thing or really well. I'm just going to go present this. What do you think?
Yeah. The chronic error that I see is the old if we build it, they'll come mentality. Doesn't work. It's keep it cheap and get out there and grind it out. And as we built our business with the creative agency, like, you're always looking for opportunity and stuff. And there are times we go like, we can take on this project, and you know what? We can fund like a bunch of equipment, and that's going to get us into a bunch of other ones. And build our expertise. And sometimes, honestly, that wasn't too smart, because at times we spread ourselves sort of too thin. But we were very much like, get the contract first and then build on it, rather than build it all up and hope they walk in the door. It doesn't work that way.
Well, you burn all your resources, and then you'll have stuff that's underutilized or not used at all, right? Because maybe customers don't want it. I don't know if you're like me, but if I get in a room with a bunch of my colleagues and we're really bouncing some great ideas off, we get into this emotional high, and it's like a group think, right? Because, oh my God, this could be the best thing ever. We're going to change the world. And then as soon as you introduce it to the market, you walk out that door and go, hey, I just came up with the best idea ever. And they go, it's a good, okay idea. We don't need it.
You like, I know, because you're in software, it's the same with us, that we are a lot more disciplined now in how we do development, because we talk with our clients exhaustively, and we're talking with multiple and getting, all the stuff, because we've done it a number of times. In fact, right now we're going through a sprint on, we over-engineered and overbuilt this one whole thing that we thought we were so smart. And now my co-founders rebuilding it and simplifying the hell out of it, because that's what our clients need. And I don't know how much time we spent building it the first time, but that's a chronic thing. You're like, yeah, we're so smart, we build it. That comes back to talk to your clients, and make sure no matter what your industry, make sure you're delivering what's going to be world changing for them. And it's not always asking, what do you want? It's, what problem do you have? You're there to solve the problem. You're not there to go, we software, same thing. I'm sure you got this. I would like this. And you're kind of going, no, you don't. What I understand from that is, you have this problem, don't you? Yeah, we have that problem. Okay, we've got a way better way to solve it, right? Talk to those clients. That's, again, is network is not just to get the job, is to understand that you're doing exactly what's going to help them move forward, right?
You hit the nail on the head, and I had that same problem. We built a Ferrari, and the customer's like going, yeah, but we really just want that right rear rim.
Exactly.
And we're like going, no, it comes with all this other great stuff. And they're going, yeah, but we like that thing. Can we just buy that? And we said no for so long, until we're like going, why are we saying no to all this, right? If they just want the one piece, let's find a way to just sell that outside of the package, right? And it changes the way you look at it. So I mean, listening to your customer and saying, oh, well, okay, well, I don't know better, because you don't know better than the market. You don't know better than other people about what they want. So just try to deliver what they want.
Well, and it's you hear that story all the time, and one that, like, we're on Slack all day, every day, the entire team. And if I remember right, the story about Slack was, it was actually just a little chat feature inside of a game. The game was this massive thing, and it failed miserably. And then they took this little itty bitty chat feature that was in the game, and they were using it in the office or something. And then they said, someone probably had a problem where, yeah, I'm tired of email. I can't. Oh, we got this little messaging system. Do you want to try it? And now it's like $1 billion. Like, I don't remember the exact story, but it's worth reading about because it's interesting to hear about that, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I heard something about Slack. I don't know if it was I think I knew about it when it was like they were just using it internally.
Yeah.
Instagram was in a game, and I didn't know that until a few years back, where it was just a sharing of pictures inside this game, because they were chatting and things like that. And they go, hey, you know what? Most people are just sharing pictures. They're not even buying the ads or buying the extra swords or whatever it was that you buy in a game. And they took the pictures out. And 2 years later, 3 years later, I mean, here it is. Facebook buys it for $1 billion.
Yeah, it's
simplification.
Yeah, it is. And it's you know what's kind of interesting, and thinking back to, like, you're asking, like, how did I get my first customer? My first customer, like I said, I just like asking, who needs this, and not really know what I'm doing, but somehow stumbling in and getting business. With software company, it's different. My first customer, because I didn't know, honestly, I didn't know what the hell is very, a lot of parallelism. I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I had an idea. So I was going to say but at that point it was, I rolled out this little prototype that I had built somewhere overseas that was clunky and whatever, but I just want to test and see, like, is there something to this? And the test for me was, would anyone buy it? And I can't remember now the exact, like, I'd put up the landing page that I read about, and you put up a landing page, and somehow people were finding it and signing up a little bit into our mailing list. And we, I don't know, like, I got listed on a few things or whatever. And then rolled out like V1 of its prototype, but wasn't even software yet. Mm-hmm. And I remember, I don't know if it was all in the same day or if it was the first 2 days maybe. And we got 3 sales, one from Canada, didn't know them, one from the US, didn't know them, one from Germany, definitely didn't know them. I don't even know who those people are. And it was so weird because I wasn't going out banging on doors and stuff. I was reliant sort of on them to come and find me at that point. We totally different model now, and that's a hard way to build a business. It sounds easy, but it's like, yeah, it's easy to get a few. To do it at volume, that's hard.
Yeah, but you were knocking on doors differently, right? You still presented the product. I mean, it was just a different way of knocking on a door. You didn't just hold on to it, wait for somebody to walk in the door. Like some people will do that. They'll put a storefront open and wait for folks to come in. And if you're in the right location, that works. But if you're in the wrong location, you got to figure out how to get people over there, with advertising or otherwise. So, I think we should probably have an episode on marketing and what brings and what attracts, what's worked, what hadn't worked. But getting that first sale, if you're like me, and again, I've been in 13 businesses now, that first sale, I always have a level of anxiety up until the point the money hits the bank.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like going, man, is this going to work? Is this going to go? And then it's usually a slow trickle, real slow, before it takes off. And it's just, it's a weird period of like, oh my God, I'm going to lose everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it. And then it feels like a blur. And at some point you look back and go, oh man, like I remember that in our agency days, it was like, yeah, you got to get the next job, got to get the next job, and then they started to go like, oh, I got the jobs. And also you look and go, holy shit, we have to have a lot of money every month to keep this place going, right? And it's also this realization that, like, what did we build here? Like, it's the risk has gone up. There's more zeros on the end of everything, but at the end of the day, it's like, I don't know if at the end of the day I'm thinking a little more money, but not in relation to how much bigger everything is, right?
Yeah, exactly right. Now, what's funny is that brand new neighborhood out here. where I built, and there's one industry that is exploding right now in San Antonio, Texas. Realize it's hot, right? It's 100 degrees here today.
Yeah.
Swimming pools. If you
Okay.
want a swimming pool, there is an 8 to 9 month wait just before they start. So if I signed a contract today saying, yeah, I want a swimming pool, it ain't like, oh, we'll get to you in 2 to 4 weeks. No, it's 8 to 9 months. It's like a baby. You
That's
wait
next year.
It's next year. Not only that, then it's another 3 to 4 months to get it built, right? So you're talking about a year process. If I make the decision to put a pool in today, I might be in it next summer.
Yeah. That's is like screams opportunity. If you know anything about pools, I wouldn't know anything about pools, but boy, you see, like, there's demand there.
Well, and believe it or not, the average pool price in this area, $70,000 to $80,000.
Holy cow! What are they doing?
It's rock. It's like desert here. Right? They have to dig into the rock.
Oh man!
And
you would
of
have
the
to.
cost is just digging the hole.
You'd have to really like swimming. I don't think I like swimming that much. So that's an amazing. But yeah, I guess if they're doing 3 or 4 months and they're digging into that and they got a lot of materials, they're probably not like rolling in it in a way. Maybe they are, but that there's a lot that goes into that.
Yeah. All right. So there was a period of time early on where I was like surprised every time somebody bought from me. You ever felt like that? We're like going, you're talking to them, and then they say, yes, yeah, we'll do it. And I'm like shocked. What? You said yes?
Yeah. There was it's funny, and it's again a bit of a transition for me when it goes like that, where it's like, sweet, I got a sale, right? To I remember at some point going, okay, we're winning too many of our bids. We're probably underpricing. We're like I was talking with this about about this to someone the other day, where we started to have like a minimum charge, and it goes up and up and up and up, because the smaller the job, the harder it was to make money on. And we had so many problems with these little itty bitty jobs, little businesses, and they just were difficult. And when you start to get the bigger ones with the bigger organizations, and you're dealing with, some management level of something, it just seemed to go easier, right? And it changes from, holy cow, they bought from us. Like it's a weird to think about that. Nice, close that deal, bought from us or whatever, to I think we're like undercharging because we're winning way too many of these. That's a weird transition. It happens over a longer time, right?
Right. All right. So that's funny, because I've taught bankers for a while, and believe it or not, you're really teaching them to sell when it comes right down to it. People don't look at a banker as like, oh, he's a salesman, but that loan officer, even though they got a fancy title, they might be vice president of this, that, and the other, or relationship manager, they're a salesperson, and their job is to sell you a loan, right? So the more time they spend with you, the less valuable that loan is, right? So what you teach them is a quicker way to qualify folks, like going, you're not going to be bankable, so they don't waste a lot of time with you. But what happened in 2008, when I say the bankers burnt the world down, is that the banks vacated the spot because Dodd-Frank and all these other regulations came in. So it made it just as costly to make a $50,000 loan as it did a $5 million loan, with all the checks and balances and things like that. So they vacated the spot. What it did, though, was open up the market for Cabbage and On Deck and SoFi and all these other ones that you see now in the alternative space, because they can figure out a way to do it faster. So
interesting.
It's funny how you did that. So what everybody's trying to do now is, how do I go back downstream, lend to small businesses, but in order to do so, I have to do it at a quicker pace. So now you're starting to see automated lending processes, and you're starting to see automated decisions and things like that. So it's kind of a cool thing to see. And I brought that up because you said I had to keep raising price. Well, that's what they did in
Yeah.
2008. Now they're trying to figure out how to come back down. So I think that
Yeah.
the economy kind of dictates, at what price level you're going to operate at.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's, of course, it comes down to that cost of acquisition, and how do you have to have such a low cost of acquisition on a small transaction like that. And how do you get it small enough? And well, that's this smart, automated, intelligent way of analyzing their finances and seeing if it makes sense without a person having to be involved. So that's interesting. Yeah. It's something I don't know about it.
Totally off topic.
So we do that all day. That's
right.
That's what this is all about.
All right. So you've got where do we get the first sale? All right. So I think that starts with, and I didn't do that until the last 5 years, building a customer persona. Have you done that? Where it's,
Yes.
Yeah.
Not early, but later on. And I would always do them in batches of 3. I don't know why. I think I read some books, I don't know how many years ago. Always do them in batches of 3 and build those personas out. A very useful tactic.
Well, yeah, because when you can identify, a person, right? But we'll take accountants, for example, because both you and I have talked to accountants.
Yeah.
Well, there's accountants, there's bookkeepers, there's CPAs, different levels of education, different expectations about what they're trying to do with a product, different ways that they engage with their clients, right? So I'll make a generic list of traits that those people have, right? Like a CPA is this, an accountant's that, and a bookkeeper's this. But in order to train my team, so scale it out, I'll say, here's Tim, CPA, or here's Deborah, the accountant, and here's Tina, the bookkeeper, and break down all of the stuff I put in there, goals and challenges and things like that into a sentence. Here's their fears and values. Here's their goals and challenges. And that really helps them when they're talking to somebody. Go, oh yeah, this is a bookkeeper, and here's the marketing message, and then here's the elevator pitch. I mean, I'll go that deep. Whereas when we market to bookkeepers, you need to keep it about this pain point, which is what the problem you're trying to solve. And then here's an elevator pitch like, hey, Tina, you ever thought of blah, 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 whatever your pain point is, because that's what I do.
Yeah. And I think the interesting part is you keep talking about the pain point, and that's the important part is what is their pain? What is their pain? What is their pain? And how are you helping them solve that pain? Right. No one's going to buy something they don't need. Right. Like I always, when they always talk about like you get these things about, there's a perception that advertisers are like, they're a little sketchy and they're doing all these, underhanded things to make people buy. And you're like, yeah, but it's so hard to get someone to buy. Like you can't force anyone to buy. They make the ultimate decision. It is so hard to get someone to buy. Right. And it's there's no accident. You have to understand that pain point that you're addressing.
Yeah, and I think, and now I just thought about it, finding pain points, because you can't Google it, like what pain do small business owners have? Because you'll get 65 million results and none of them are right.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think if you can answer this question, or when you're talking to customers, ask them this: don't you hate it when? Don't you hate it when? Isn't it frustrated if? If you put that things out front, that type of sentence out front. Don't you hate it when things cost too much? Or don't you hate it when your spreadsheet formulas get changed and everything's off, but you rely on that number? Whatever that is. If you can break it down that simply, people get it real fast, because in the age of the internet, in the age of Alexa, in the age of everything else, you've got a few seconds to connect. Right. Then they'll expand, but what's that thing? Don't you hate it when? Don't you hate it when?
That's a good, I always learn stuff here. I'm going to, share that because it's just a good, simple tactic. But it's, like I had a meeting this afternoon with a potential customer, but, like I just tell me about yourself. Tell me about, how do you do this? How do you do that? How do you do that? And just asking all these questions, and I'm absorbing this. I'm taking all these notes, and then it's close to the end. I'm like, well, here's how we can maybe help you with that. but it was so valuable to be able to just like ask those questions of a customer. It's like, it's so precious to have somebody in front of you that's really engaged, really interested in what you're doing, and just be able to ask some questions. It's never a big benefit or a big thrill to tell them stuff, right? It's this massive advantage. Tell me about this. How do you do this? How do you serve people this way? What's hard about that? What struggles do you have? Just asking those questions, and they just feed you all this information. And it's amazing to me sometimes how reluctant some entrepreneurs, some business owners are to asking questions of their clients, because they don't want to hear the answer and they think they know everything. And it's the opposite. It's gold. Talk with them, ask them questions. You'll just learn. They give you the answers. It's like a pipeline of answers for you, right? It's just so valuable.
Well, but your skill though, I mean, you, Blaine, your skill would be, all right, I have all this information. I have to boil it down now to 1 or 2 sentences I can tell somebody that I didn't talk to.
Yes.
Right? You know, and
you use their words.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is they deliver the wording to you. You know, how do they talk? And after you talk to a bunch of clients, you're going, they all say it's this. They all refer to it this way. They all say that. Take those words, put over here. Don't come up with it yourself, because when you try from internal language, you've seen this a million times. You can see a website, you can see from 30 miles away. It's like the internal language. It's always really jargony and confusing. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. You have to get into the words of your, like, what words do they use to understand it? Probably won't come from one, but if you have 50 conversations, you start to go, yeah, 45 of them said this.
That's right.
Use it verbatim.
That's right.
That's your way in, right?
Yeah. So I want to say that, you know, what I'm learning here is what you just said was you almost got to be a chameleon, right? And I'm going to put that visual in your head, meaning that you listen to what the customer's saying and you're kind of, you know, processing all that, but I think you almost got to mirror it back, right? Mm-hmm. Blend into the environment. So you know, it isn't me telling you, this is what we all think, right?
Yeah.
and you as a company have blended into that environment where you're a chameleon and now part of their, you know, habitat. You're in the cage with them.
You're an insider. Yeah. It's the other thing too, is the market's going to tell you what you're selling. And the market's going to tell you where the opportunities are for what you do. So, you know, like when I started Dry Run, we were thinking it was a direct to business product. Well, now we're selling really to financial professionals. It's actually a very different market. Business owner, financial. They basically told us we need you. You guys are delivering what we need. And it's the same thing going back to my, you know, like I said, my first job that I remember when I started my own little business, that was after I had taken the leap. I'd quit my job and I'm like, holy, you know, now I'm on my own, was a brochure. And it was, you know, I'm like, okay, well, you know, are we building, you know, what am I doing here? Am I doing like stationery, like brochures, business cards? Well, you fast forward a number of years and we were doing like, installations with like touch screens. And this is way before touch screens. Like I remember the first one we did, there was almost no such thing as a touch screen, but we got them and built them and programmed them. But what I think happened was the market started to tell us what they needed. And we started to realize we're good at this stuff. We're good at that. We're good at digital. We're good at this technology side. And that started to evolve into where we went as a business, because we saw the opportunity and the market told us what we were really good at and what they really needed. And we just grabbed that opportunity.
You know who else did that early on? I connected with that idea early on. Have you ever heard of a guy named Doug Sleater? He's kind of a big influencer now in the accounting world. Okay. And he used to have a conference called SleaterCon.
Okay.
And he sold it to another group who changed it to what they called account techs. right?
Okay,
So
I've heard of that. Yeah.
yeah, I heard of count text. So I mean that used to be SleaderCon and became account text. But I didn't realize it was the same guy when I met him in 2000, we'll say 11 or 12. But in 2005, I'm going to say 2005, I bought a book online that said QuickBooks for restaurants because I had gotten into bars and restaurants and I couldn't make the accounting just right. It was like weird. So I bought this book online, I don't know, $30 or whatever, and it was written by Doug Sleater. And I'm just like, I didn't really care, right? At the time, I'm like, if it works, it works. And read the book, I'm like going, oh, that's exactly what I need. And I took his processes and put it in there. Now, that's not what he wanted to do. He didn't want to be in that, but that's where the market took him. He saw that gap, he saw that hole, and he goes, that's exactly what people need. And I was able to tell him that story, 5 years later in person, or 6 years later in person. So it was a real cool thing that I saw him do that propelled him in the industry just by becoming known for that.
And and that's the balancing act that's so challenging for entrepreneurs is to be able to recognize the opportunity, to recognize where you fit in the market, where you can be the best in the world at something, but then have the discipline to do that. Because the chronic thing, and we did this a little too much in my agency days, is we had a really talented group and a really good team, and we felt like we could build anything. But the dumb thing is we did. So anyone would come in the door and like, oh, hell yeah, we can build that, take it on as a challenge. And so it felt like every time we did something, it was novel. And there was, you learn from it, but there was never that chance to kind of take what you learn and go, we built this, let's just build another one that's a little different and make a lot of money on it. It was always we build an airplane one day, let's do a helicopter, and then we're doing a submarine. Like it just, you didn't take enough of the learnings. And so it's that balance of what are we good at? Where's the opportunity and everything? And then just focus. That's a really hard part. You want to be niche and you want to be the best in the world at it.
Well, that's exactly right. And I used to call it, you got to find a sales seam. And what I meant by that was you tap on this wall. You tap, we think it's a glass wall or ice wall, or what do you want to, you tap. Like in the hotel staffing business, I'd go to, Motel Sixes and Red Roof Inns and Embassy Suites, all these things that you go to. And then when one starts to buy, you find out that, oh, I'm good at that. And it puts a crack in that wall. And when you hit that crack, I call it a sales seam, then you flood it. You just flood the sales seam and just go all in and try to break the whole wall through that seam.
Yeah. It's a tricky thing to do. And it's just something that we've done relatively recently where we're figuring this out. That's where it is. Go. And it's a very different feeling as a business. It's a great feeling to be able to go, you feel like you're kind of hunting through the darkness. Now it's like, we'll go to the light right there. That's where we go. Go.
All right. So we're coming up on our time. Hey, here's what I kind of learned, right? You kind of fill in the gaps, right? So I learned that, hey, first of all, you're going to have to go out and talk to people, right? It doesn't matter how we look at it. You got to go out and talk to people. You've got to go out and just present it. But in order to do that, you got to find a way to talk to people, right? Which is, I gave you a couple of things, like I helped this person with this problem by doing these things. Or you can just say, here's the promise that I deliver. And here's why you should buy it from me. Either one of those kind of work. But I think if you really boil it down, I learned that you have to solve a problem, right? So if we boil it down to 3 words here, your first sale, where do you get it from? Learn how to solve a problem, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I will say the best conversation starter is ask questions till you understand that problem. And then, that's the way in, or qualify. Are they the right person to even be talking to? If they're not, don't waste your time. But you have to know, like, you don't want to go in and start talking, this is what we do until, these guys have this problem. Now I can take off and push, right?
Identify that need and then solve it, right?
Absolutely.
All right. So nobody told me. I actually enjoyed my peanut butter milk stout today. I actually enjoyed that.
I was going to ask you how you like it.
I do. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I'm glad I bought 6 of them because it's going to be a good night. Going to be a good night, Tater.
Nice. Absolutely.
So, but yeah, nobody told me. If you have things that you want us to talk about, if you have things that you think we should discuss, hit those comments right in the YouTube channel. If you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple or any of those others, go to YouTube, leave us a comment. I think we got a website in the work too, right? I mean, we're kind of moving along with this thing
slowly but surely. Well, I think it's I think it's like nobody told me with Mike and Blaine.com. Like it's a really long one, but it's easy. It's easy to remember. So that'll be up pretty soon, I think. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're quickly making this hobby into something bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a ton of fun, and we're having a lot of great beer along the way. So thanks, Snake Lake, again for this is a terrific beer. So
there you go. All right, hey Blaine, we'll see you next week, and I appreciate it.
Sounds good, man. Looking forward to it.